I would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the lands that I'm on today, the lands of the Dharawal peoples. I pay my respect to elders past, present and emerging, and extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people here today. I acknowledge the deep and continuous connection to land, waters, culture, and the sacred knowledge and wisdom in caring for country. In this cooler winter weather, I've been taking advantage of the cool days and doing lots of bushwalking on all those hilly walks that I avoid in the summertime because I'm a hot pot. So I hope that you are taking some time to get out on country, feel country beneath your feet, and walk those hills.
Thanks, Sam. Hello, everyone. I'm Kathleen Cambourn. I'm a Gamilaroi woman who's been born and raised and lived here on Dharawal country. And I've been asked to talk to you about sort of my role here at the university in the library. I came here in August last year, and my role was to engage with community and bring Aboriginal perspectives into the library so that it would be more culturally safe, and to have it so that our people will come into the library and feel safe and supported and respected and valued. So when I started, I thought, okay, well, what do I do? So my first port of call was to get out to everybody on campus that I knew some of the other Aboriginal staff, and so I tried to make connections with those people, and went and had a yarn and talked to them about what they seen the library space to look like and what they wanted from the library space. And through that was really valuable. I got to consult with them and get their opinions and their thoughts and their views. And because of that, I was able to connect with our Indigenous Centre here at UOW, the Wollongong, and our Indigenous Strategy Unit. So, which culturally is appropriate for me to do, to connect with mob and go and yarn up with them and see, what it is that they want. And through that process, it's just been invaluable. And, I know that sometimes we get caught up in our work and we've got to meet these deadlines and things have to be ticked off, but it's just so important to make connections and build relationships, build trust, have patience, take the time, because it's always relationships before business, from where I come from. So to me, it was just vital, because without building that trust and building those relationships, nothing would move forward. And so I did that, and was so lucky to have had the conversation with our director up at the centre and at Wollongong, and got to talking about how can I engage with, community. And I have my own connections through local community, but I knew that there was already a community engagement reference group. And one of the goals that we had decided early in the piece was to engage with our local community. And so that was a great way to get in the front door and, invite the community engagement reference group to a library reference group meeting. And we did that and had some really good conversations, and talked about lots of different things, and asked community what they wanted and told them what we thought. some things were great, other things were like, oh, well, maybe do it this way. And I just think it's just so important to stop and listen, because, you know, without that mutual reciprocal relationship, things don't move forward. And I know this can be sort of done, not just because I'm an Aboriginal woman, but this can be done by everybody. If we just slow down, take the time to build that relationship, and be open, be honest, ask questions. Yes, it might be uncomfortable, but it's well worth it to be a little bit uncomfortable and get through that initial stage of consultation. And so from that, we've built a framework, a consultation framework that we are now embedded into the library. So that's going to be there for everybody in the library to use. But we also created an action plan, a library action plan. But from that was built upon recommendations from the heart, which is the healing and recognition. Can you help me out? Healing recognition tracks. It's sort of like a RAP plan, but here at the UOW, it was recognised that we needed to do truth telling as a first port of call. So they introduced the heart plan, and so we took our tracks in our action plan based upon the university's heart plan that came out of lots of consultation with community and with other, you know, colleagues and community, and so we knew that it was a good solid foundation because it had already been consulted and worked through. So then our job, alongside with Alison here, we sat and we talked and we worked out where we could fit and what we thought, and then from then it's now gone to our library reference group for refinement, and to our leaders, and it will go to our community engagement reference group as well. So before anything, you know, we had to build these relationships so that when we do go and have a yarn about some business, we've already got the foundations and relationships. So I can't emphasize that enough, the building of that trust. I guess, you know, when we think about these big organisations, which is universities often are, for some people in community, they're really scary places, and I know that from my experience as well. So if we can make it a culturally safe place, not just physically, but also spiritually and emotionally safe, and all of those things, I think, you know, could be better moving forward, definitely.
It's good to hear your reflections.
Yeah.
So I can reflect on my side of the journey, and it has been a journey, and we're only at the beginning. So just had to smile to myself recently because I was reflecting on the fact that I did start with a basic understanding of relationships first and business second, and yet the pull of the Western mindset is so strong, obviously, if that's what you know and where you're coming from. So I guess I relied, which was somewhat okay, relied upon your existing connections, willingness to get out there and make those connections straight away. But I fell into whiteboard mode quite quickly and brought Kath into here, I went into where we are now with my whiteboard pens, trying to map to this heart plan. So I had good intent, but I'm also in a strategy and planning position. So it was not only my Western mindset, but coming from that strategy, must pick out some results kind of mindset. But quite quickly, I've come on the consult journey and the building relationships journey. I had seeded some good relationship in the Indigenous Strategy Unit prior, when we had a reconciliation action plan, but not nearly as much involvement, obviously, until Kath came on board. And now, even again, just preparing for this, I understand that more that our action plan is a living document, and that it's through the connections we're making that tightens up and takes new shape. Our action plan, also we decided to kind of frame it in the idea of connect, consult and commit.
Yeah.
And I think we've demonstrated that pretty well in our first 9 months. I also, I guess, was driven towards having something to show, because I'm conscious that Kath's only with us for a fixed term 2 years. So it's about getting a balance. I'm trying to appease leadership who want something to see, labelling our Aboriginal collection with some flag stickers has sort of given us momentum, but it also does the job of sort of showing what we can do. But I think we've moved quickly because we've brought people along with us, because we were able to get that library reference group started, and we found our allies quickly, or certainly people that have always been obviously allies, but they've had nowhere to channel it. So as soon as you have that identified position in place, or let's hope positions, you can bring people in with you straight away. We discussed often, haven't we, soft skills.
Yes.
It's to get a move away from some of this, this is the plan I've got on paper, that spending time in and with the community is all part of the work. And I've been very thankful to Kath inviting me along on NAIDOC walks, morning teas, sorry day acknowledgements. And yeah, I mean, it's 100% more valuable than sitting and reading a book, or sitting and reading some papers about the issues, 100%. And sitting in our community reference group meeting, I mean, I knew what we were there for, but to experience it in action was so rich. And you just walk out saying, there is just no way that you would ever do anything without this group of people. Nothing about us without us. I mean, you'd just be on a different planet if you thought you could walk out and make decisions or proceed in any business matter in Australia without doing that. It makes so much sense, and it's so rich and so valuable. And just one last thing to say in our work together is, what was heartening is that because of the merging issues and momentum with existing issues like Indigenous intellectual property rules, United Nations, looking at Indigenous matters as well, that we could learn together.
Yes,
we could learn new things together, and so we were starting on the same page.
Yeah, that's great.
So I think that really helps when I was now exploring this. We can journey together.
Absolutely.
Anthony?
I think Sam's next, isn't it?
Sure, okay. I think that probably lots of the participants listening in today, if you are or you have been in a liaison position or academic engagement, those kind of positions in a library, a lot of what we've heard already will really resonate with you, because an integral part of that role is relationships. Building those relationships with, the academic community that you support, your HDR students, relationships, that's your workplace community. And, for me, hearing, Kath and Alison talk, I can't help but reflect on those concepts of reciprocity, working with people, and how I want to make it easy for me to apply those concepts to maybe stretch out a little bit. Part of my remit is not, to support our younger community at Wollongong, but I apply that concept of reciprocity and, people first, relationships first, and then business can come after that once you've built those relationships. And I hope that everybody's, you know, that is resonating with people. I'm looking at my laptop, but resonating with people in the audience. Yeah, because it's that feels really important to me. I can't do my job without people. And I wanted to share, I guess, you know, my own anecdote, I suppose, aside from, you know, being really thankful to be part of the library's reference group here, you know, to be in that space, learning with people, learning with Kath, learning from Kath, is a wonderful part of my job, you know, something that I value, something that I relish, and that I'm grateful to be involved with. But I wanted to tell a little bit of a story, I suppose, about, so we have, for the last 2 years, had an Open Access Week Award at the University of Wollongong, inspired by a presentation that we saw here a few years ago. And last year, I wondered if we could extend that award to include an Indigenous Researcher Award. And I guess, you know, thinking about the relationships that in my job professionally, that it's important to me that I'm able to build those relationships. And I guess not even really knowing that, just thinking, you know, reaching out to Anthony and Tammy, who was our Indigenous, I don't remember what Tammy's,
Coordinator.
yeah, she was our advancement coordinator here at the University of Wollongong, to kind of float this idea, you know, could we do this? Would this be possible? And I never really reflected on the potential leap that was, you know, to ask for something. But because of my job, and that it's important to me to build relationships with people, because, you know, without people, without connections, I'm not entirely sure how I could come to work. You know, that's important to me. You know, that we were able to get this award going, and that feels very special that we were able to do that. I feel very grateful to have been involved in that, but that's about those relationships that I had, that I nurture, that the library has, I guess the standing that the library has in the UOW community, that we could pose this award. That's sad, you know, I was able to sell it because it fits within our the UOW strategic plan, that concept of reward and recognition. So we weren't kind of pulling something out of nothing. The university tells us that it believes in rewarding and recognising research excellence. But how can we do that? And how can we do that in an inclusive way? Because the first year we started off with early career researchers and higher degree research students only. And we extended that to include an Indigenous ECR and HDR as well. Yeah.
And just extending, so I'm Anthony McKnight. I'm an Awabakal Gomeroi Yuan man, and I've been in Indigenous Strategy Unit for about 3 years, and before that I was in the School of Education for about 15, and that's when I first met Sam, and took us a long period of time to get to know each other. And now we're always bouncing off each other all the time, different ideas and different things, because of building that relationship. And that's part of the thing for me, because, you know, being a researcher in the space and then working with the library team, being invited in to kind of to work with Kath and others, just to see where else we can take this, is when we're doing, if library and we're working with researchers, we can model the importance of research should be done through the community. What does the community want researchers to work on? So that's another layer of reinforcement, that if you've got researchers that want to work with community, that it's important to build those relationships to find out what the community actually wants to happen, and then through those relationships have those conversations that we're talking about. You know, what's the library's role? What is the researcher's role? What's the community role? Because if we don't, one of the things that the trap can often fall in is that all the responsibility gets put onto the community of informing what they should do and how they do it. and all those things. So having those relationships, then you can then recognise who has what responsibility. Or then having those conversations around who can do what without trying to burden the community as it is. So that's part of the conversations that we've been having. And another element of my role is how do we weave country into this? Because this is, for Aboriginal people, country is our knowledge system. Country is our teacher. And when we're talking about community, we're not just talking about human community. We're talking about the community of trees, creeks, rivers, birds, insects. There's a whole range of different communities that make up who we are. So we're at the beginning journey of a lot of things, but this is something that we're just starting to explore. And we had a really nice kind of one afternoon looking at country as teacher. And reciprocation can take many different forms, and it was such a surprise for me to get back to my office one day and there's a beautiful carrot cake on the desk. This is a simple reciprocation, you know. But reciprocation is not always food, you know, especially if they're lactose intolerant. And all I've got is dad jokes anyway. But it could be just that learning from each other.
Yeah.
And then, you know, when you need support, that I don't have that skills, or I have that skills. It might not be to do with actual work, but it's just that being human beings. Actually being human beings and supporting each other in a whole range of things. And the cake was good. It was really good.
I'm sure that resonates with the audience too. Doesn't love and
Excellent.
needs.